since we're talking about the Honorable Joseph Robinette Biden, that it is part of this week's segment, Remembering Biden.
And Corn Pop was a nigger, big shot, Nazi fags.
You ain't black.
What a stupid son of a bitch.
And I gotta say, right off the bat, let me be completely clear. I wanna be very clear here. I do not endorse Donald J. Trump. It's really frustrating that I have to keep coming out and saying things that sound pro-Trump because I really don't like the guy. And now we're going to spend like an hour talking about how much of a shitbag Joe Biden is being to Trump supporters, because it's about the Trump supporters. And to the libertarians that will assume, oh, he's MAGA or whatever because he's talking about this. I'm not. Never vote for the guy. Don't intend to. But it doesn't really, like, when Joe Biden talks about the MAGA Republicans, he's not just talking about the MAGA Republicans. He's talking about anybody at all that disagrees with the establishment. That includes you. That includes even the Beltway libertarians. If you are not on board, well, I guess some of them are on board. But if you're not on board, you're part of, quote unquote, the MAGA Republicans or the Trumpies or whatever he wants to call them. So keep that in mind as we listen to the president of the United States condemn them all as bigots and evil whatevers. So Matt, what have you heard? Anything that stuck out to you before we get into this thing?
Well, this speech itself, we've seen for the last like 6 or 7 years the way they throw the word fascist around.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know what fascism really is, like Mussolini's definition of fascism was basically state corporate partnerships to impose upon the population. And that's what we've freaking seen through the Democratic Party in the last couple of years. And so it's always been, you call Trump a fascist, even though you're the one being the fascist.
Right.
And this is basically just the imagery of this whole situation is like, it's the epitome of fascism. And he's standing up there calling his own enemies fascists. It's just,
if you said paint for me a fascist, you would if somebody said paint for me a fascist, you would start with a red backdrop with looming military figures standing on either side and maybe a flag behind, and just a lot of black and red imagery. Maybe put some blue on the outsides, but make sure the cameras don't notice that happy blue. Just keep it focused on the red.
Yeah.
And it's funny, we're going to watch this, not the whole thing. I've got it clipped down to a bit. We're going to watch this and his other speech, just the highlights, and we might speed up a couple of the clips and everything because there's a lot to get through, because I think it's important to really listen to the words that this guy is saying. And imagine if he was saying it about anybody else. Imagine if he was saying it about libertarians, or imagine if he was saying it about Jews. I don't know. You can put any name on there.
Or imagine, George W. Bush saying these things about Muslims, say 20 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, Muslims who at the time, he did say similar things about them, but I don't even think he was this bad. While they were trying to convince us that Muslims knocked down the World Trade Center, they weren't even this like aggressive in their speech about that. But anyway, I want to play this intro I found to be just bizarre, and just the walk up and the framing and everything feels like, I don't know, something out of an like if you wanted to make an old timey feel of a presidential speech, this is what it would look like. So awkwardly long.
Jill's got to walk him up there.
Yep.
Right, honey. Wave and now talk.
Yep.
My fellow Americans.
Oh, shit.
Please, if you have a seat, take it. I speak to you tonight from sacred ground in
Get it
America.
together, Joe. Come on.
Independence Hall in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is where America made its Declaration of Independence to the world more than 2 centuries ago with an idea unique among nations, that in America We're all created equal.
Now, we are all created equal. Oh, also, this ad is going to keep popping up in between clips, so I know where to break. This is the ad for my Unity Camp Summer of Love shirt, featuring Biden and Harris. Join for healing and cleansing by any means necessary. You can get yours at thesystemsdown.tv, and that might be the only time I say that. But yeah, he opens with, we are living in a country of whatever, democracy, and we're all about liberty and unity for all, blah, blah, blah. And keep in mind, pretty much every time there's a pause here, in between his tirades about how evil the MAGA Republicans are, every time it cuts just about, he's talking about how we are bringing the country together through unity, which I just find, like, I don't know, gaslighting or something? Like, while you're condemning 50% of the country, you are simultaneously in the next breath saying, our country is doing great and I believe in us because we are unified.
Yeah, I mean, but the left has been doing this for years, basically pointing the finger and accusing the right of everything that they're guilty of. But this is just so blatant and obvious.
Yep, it gets worse.
And here tonight, equality and democracy are under assault. We do ourselves no favor to pretend otherwise.
Pretend otherwise.
Tonight,
it's very serious.
I've come to this place where it all began.
It's looming danger. What is it?
Speak as plainly as I can.
And that's how you know a politician is about to say some shit. When he says, "I'm here to be very clear and speak as plainly as I can."
About the power we have in our own hands to meet these threats, and about the incredible future that lies in front of us if only we choose it.
So he says, we're talking about this looming danger and this looming threat that only you have the power to change. Like, it's not a direct call to violence, but you'll notice that he does this a lot, where it's like, it's funny that they try and say, Trump saying we need to fight like hell while going into an election, that is a call to violence, but him condemning all these people and then saying things like, you can change it, go out and change it, it's up to you to go and stop these people. Like, I don't know. Does that sound like a call to vote or a call to violence? I'm honestly not sure.
Well, honestly, where are all these violent extremists hanging out? Like, where are they at?
Right.
Like, where's the protests where they're bashing out windows?
They're everywhere. They're all over the place. They're everywhere, man. Come on.
Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal.
Agreed.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans
Oh, there's the
represented
threat.
extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
Again, replace MAGA Republicans with anything, any other group that you want, and see if it still plays.
Now, I want to be very clear up front. Not every Republican, not even the majority of Republicans are MAGA Republicans. Not every Republican embraces their extreme ideology. I know, because I've been able to work with these mainstream Republicans. But there's no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans.
So he's saying that...
And that is a threat to this country.
So he's saying that...
so he said majority of them were not MAGA
right.
Republicans.
Exactly. In the same breath, he said... I know that it's not the majority of them. It's just this small fringe group, but that small fringe group is going to take over our democracy and overthrow this entire country. And they're running the Republican Party, but it's not all Republicans. Like, you got to pick one, man. You got to pick one. And like, this whole speech is pandering to his base. I feel like it's because he knows that he has nothing left to run on here. All he can do is say, please, for the love of God, Democrats, please don't abandon me at this point, because there's a train wreck here brewing. And all we can do is throw every Trump supporter under the bus because we weren't getting their vote anyway.
And I believe it's my duty to level with you, to tell the truth, no matter how difficult, no matter how painful.
It's a very painful, difficult truth to tell by slandering your political running mate or your political opponent. It's very hard for me to say this, but my political opponent sucks. Like, sure, okay.
And here in
feel free to jump in whenever you want, because this is just going to keep going.
my view is what is true. MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution. They do not believe in the recognize the will of the people. They refuse to accept the results of a free election. And they're working right now, as I speak, in state after state, to give power to decide elections in America to partisans and cronies.
One thing Republicans are known for is not liking the Constitution. They're entirely against the Constitution, as we all know.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
right now they are working to get other people elected that also believe crazy conspiracy theories. It sounds to me like they're running campaigns and putting up candidates that agree with their values, and that is what he is saying is a scary, dangerous thing, that they're trying to get candidates
That's dangerous.
elected. Yep.
You can't be doing that sort of thing in America.
Because that's against democracy, as we all know. Getting people elected, that's not good for democracy.
We need to delegitimize and marginalize about 70+ million Americans in the sake of democracy.
Absolutely. That's how democracy works.
Empowering election deniers to undermine democracy itself. MAGA forces are determined
MAGA
to take this
forces.
country backwards.
MAGA.
Backwards to America, where there is no right to choose, no right to privacy, no right to contraception, no right to marry who you love.
So he said MAGA people are taking the country backwards to where there's no right to choose, no right to privacy, no right to contraception, no right to pick who you love. So what he said there was they don't like abortion. Sure, fact, typically. Privacy, I guess, like the only thing I can process that he means by privacy that he would care about or that his supporters would care about would be like privacy to marry who you love, right? Like privacy in the bedroom or something. I don't know. Do they care about privacy more
I
than...
don't think people on the right don't even give a damn about gay people anymore.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Trump was the first president to go into the White House supporting gay marriage.
Here's the thing. I remember growing up in the 90s. I grew up in a very conservative religious family, and there were things that maybe some of the older members of the family would do and say that could potentially be considered, homophobic or mildly racist.
Yeah.
It is you would hear all the time, growing up in kind of middle class white areas of the country, you would commonly hear racist jokes, racial slurs, the N-word. It was not uncommon to hear these sorts of things in the 90s and maybe beyond that. But if you are honest and you actually pay attention and look around America, it is radically different from what it was a couple decades ago. And even people who still consider themselves very conservative and Christian, I think at this point, anybody who doesn't live under a rock, every day you're on the internet, you're coming into contact with gay people, black people, Muslims, trans people, and most conservative people at this point don't really give a damn anymore.
The MAGA Republicans do, though.
They're fine. They're nice people. The only thing that people really care about is like, don't push your shit on me. Don't.
Yeah.
They don't want the quotas, and they don't want to be called racist, and they don't want these other values like imposed on their kids. But nobody really gives a damn. I mean, the right today, even the MAGA conservatives, they're more liberal than the left. Like, it's pretty much live and let live as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Yeah, and like I said, Trump was the first president to go into the White House supporting gay marriage. But the point, I don't know why. The main reason why I stopped it here is because the four examples that he just gave were, I'm pretty sure privacy, the only thing I can come up with that he means by that is gay rights, privacy, and stuff like that. I don't know if somebody else has another option. Great.
Maybe it's abortion because
abortion was the first one. Well, he said contraception. And he said right to choose, and then he said right to privacy, and he said gay marriage. So he basically said abortion and gay marriage, but split it up into 4 different categories of those 2 things, from what I understand here. And the gay marriage thing, they've tried tacking that on there after, like, as an addendum to, if they get rid of abortion, they're going to get rid of gay marriage next. And I honestly haven't heard anybody calling for that. But even still, that's all he could come up with was 2 things. 2 things that these people are against, and one of them he might be completely fabricating. But anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, come on, Biden.
They promote authoritarian leaders, and they fan the flames of political violence that are a
Yep.
threat to our personal rights, to the pursuit of justice, to the rule of law, to the very soul of this country.
Very soul. He's so
They
dramatic.
look at the mob that
So
stormed the
poetic
United
and
States
deep.
Capitol on January 6th, brutally attacking law enforcement.
By the way, keep in mind the title of this speech was, I think it was "The Soul of America" was the name of it, and he spends 75% ragging on or condemning 50% of the country, and then he spends the rest of it saying we're unified.
Not as insurrectionists who placed a dagger at the throat of our democracy,
Oof.
but they look at them as patriots, and they see their MAGA failure to stop a peaceful transfer of power after the 2020 election as preparation for the 2022 and 2024 elections. They tried everything last time to nullify the votes of 81 million people. This time, they're determined to succeed in thwarting the will of the people. That's why.
All these people are determined to thwart the will of the people. Like this growing group. Like I still don't know if it's a small fringe or if it's enough that we should be scared. But if it's enough that we should be scared, then how? If the majority of the people want a thing, then that's the will of the people, for better and for worse. Like your phrasing doesn't even make sense.
Well, these claims of political violence. Let's add up the how much property damage in dollar amounts was caused by leftists compared to MAGA Republicans in the last 2.5 years. Let's add that up and let's see who's actually being more destructive out there. And here's another point. Think about the Summer of Love back in 2020, all the innocent people being pummeled on the streets and private businesses being destroyed. Here's what we can say about the insurrectionists. Okay, where in America do the most mass murderous people gather, who most deserve to be overthrown by an insurrection? What building do the most mass murderers get together in America? It's the Capitol.
Starbucks.
So if there's anything was ever justified, I think the so-called insurrection, at least they took it to the right target.
Yeah, and I've said on the show many times, like even with the Black Lives Matter thing, when they attacked the cop shop and burned it down, I was like, at least you're focused. Like at least you're attacking the person that you're aggressor. You're going I don't condone either one, and especially this January 6th thing. I think it was stupid, and there was nothing to be gained from it, and nothing was gained from it. Obviously, it only gave them all the ammo that they need to do what he's doing right now, which is basically running his political campaign with armed guards and saying, my political opponent is the devil and will destroy this country if we do not stop him at all costs. So this is what you get for that stupid act. Now, I don't think the act was the things that he's making them out to be. I just think that it was primarily retarded, and this is what you get.
Respected conservatives, like Federal Circuit Court Judge Michael Ludwig, has called Trump and the extreme MAGA Republicans, quote, a clear and present danger to our democracy. But while the threat to American democracy is real, I want to say as clearly as we can, we are not powerless in the face of these threats. We are not bystanders in this ongoing attack on democracy. There are far more Americans.
So you can go out and fix this.
From every background and belief who reject the extreme MAGA ideology than those that accept it. And folks, it's within our power, it's in our hands, yours and mine, to stop the assault on American democracy.
It's our choice. Now, I don't know, does he just mean vote harder than this large group of people? I don't know. I don't want to keep repeating myself here, but I
don't think he's calling for violence here.
I don't think he is calling for violence. I think that the precedent that has been established for what constitutes calling for violence by the Democrats, the things that they have said is calling for violence, have been not as inflammatory as the things that he's saying here. I don't think he's calling for violence, but I do think that he's saying these people are evil and they must be stopped, and it is up to you to stop them. And then it's kind of up to you to fill in the blank however you want to do that, I think.
Well, here, I think somebody in the news, someone commented that, we're basically in civil war right now.
Yeah.
And I think we probably have been for maybe 2 years or so. And it's not it doesn't have to be like necessarily violence,
Yeah.
like people battling in the streets. But look at what has gone on in the last couple of years. I mean, people being completely erased from the internet, people being debanked, like you can't even like take credit card payments,
Yeah.
censorship, locking people in their homes, like not allowing for the First Amendment right for like human beings to gather and have face-to-face conversations.
Yep.
So I think we live in an age where if you want to like defeat your enemy and neutralize some segment of the population, you don't necessarily need to put them in camps or kill them. There are so many other technological ways where you can basically like reduce them to nothing. And that's what we've been seeing the last couple of years. And that's what I think maybe he could be specifically calling for that, but just think of all the people out there who have control of the media and the tech companies and the financial institutions and the power that they have to kind of wage their war against their ideological opponents.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's we always said like, there will be a civil war someday. We did like it was always building a little bit under the surface, but we never really. I don't think anybody really thought about how technology would actually play into that. Like, no, we're not in technically a hot civil war. There's been some shootings. There's been some politically motivated shootings that I don't know. When do you know that it started? Like when people are being kicked out of social media for thinking the wrong way or asking the wrong questions or whatever. Like, I don't know what constitutes a civil war, but I think looking back on it, we'll probably say that it was sometime before now at this point.
And now,
well, I think the first casualty of war is truth.
Yeah.
And I think that we're basically in an era where, and this, I think it's almost pointless to try to argue with people on the extreme other side, is because at this point, it's not really about like, what are the facts and let's try to agree on what's actually going on in the world and try to figure out how to solve these problems. It really is truly an us versus them.
Yeah.
And it's about getting the other side, regardless of whether you have the truth on your side or not. Truth doesn't even matter at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. Truth is completely irrelevant. And if you say the truth, you are lying. And if you're lying, you're saying the truth. So it doesn't really matter.
you must choose to move forward.
Exhibit A of that.
To build a future or obsess about the past. To be a nation of hope and unity and optimism.
Oh,
A
yay.
nation of fear,
Oh.
division, and of darkness. MAGA Republicans have made their choice. They embrace anger. They thrive on chaos. They live not in the light of truth, but in the shadow of lies.
Oh, so dramatic.
Right now.
He's so dramatic. Yes, they live in a shadow of fear and lies. They're not walking in the light. It's like, good God, man. Could you be more dramatic
Our
about this?
Constitution.
I mean,
we do not reject it. This is a nation that believes in the rule of law. We do not repudiate it. This is a nation that respects free and fair elections. We honor the will of the people. We do not deny it. And this is a nation.
He's doing a good job of keeping his shit together during this speech.
Yeah, he hung in there.
I'm like seriously curious about like what they're giving him.
Yeah. Whatever it is, I'll take some.
On stage, like what kinds of substances and other sorts of neurotechnologies are they employing on this guy to keep him together?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just when you bring out the red lights and the rage and you give him all these fun, spicy things to say, maybe that peps him up a little bit and, takes him back to the good old days. Yeah, maybe.
That rejects violence as a political tool. We do not encourage violence.
We do not encourage violence. Now, I was going to pull some clips. We all know of, like, the Maxine Waters clip where she's literally saying, get in, if you see somebody, like, one of these people, you get in their face and you make a scene and you bring a crowd and, like, you harass them, basically. And we've seen the literal political violence. And there's one point in one of these speeches where Biden says something about, and we've got these Republicans who are saying that January 6th was a mostly peaceful protest. It's like, motherfucker, you're using the exact same verbiage that you guys were using for buildings burning down, except those were fiery yet mostly peaceful protests. A literal headline of fiery yet mostly peaceful protests. There wasn't even fire at the Capitol. For the most part, I believe.
You
History
can get
tells us
a fiery but mostly peaceful T-shirt at libertyportraits.com.
There you go.
the blind loyalty to a single leader and a willingness to engage in political violence is fatal to democracy.
I still haven't seen the
We're all
examples
called
of
by
this
duty
political
and
violence,
conscience to
but
confront extremists who put their own
and you'll notice that he doesn't give any examples other than, I think at one point he says Charlottesville and January 6th. Those are all that they have to go off of here, despite the summer of love that that we all experienced and pretend like we didn't. The right are the ones that deny that, hate the Constitution, they hate democracy, and they are trying to cause political violence somewhere, I'm sure.
I mean, the fact that there hasn't been any real violent, unruly protest on behalf of the right or the MAGA dark forces, like,
Yeah.
it actually says quite a lot about that movement.
It says that they're
honest.
pussies.
And the fact that, I mean, January 6th, they knew they were setting that, and they set it up. You know,
Yeah.
they were.
Yeah.
They were begging for I think they wanted people to go in there and start fires and start shooting people and a whole riot to break out, and it didn't.
Yeah.
And I'm honestly impressed that it didn't. It says a lot about that movement that
It
things
should.
didn't get that bad.
Right. And you even watch like videos of what's his name? The QAnon shaman, as the media dubbed him. Like,
Yeah.
they act like he's this scary, dangerous guy, and you watch the actual videos of him like walking through and praying with people and talking to law enforcement peacefully and saying, like, telling people to calm down because you know, they're here for a purpose and their purpose is peaceful. Like, I don't know. If anybody looks into this stuff for 2 seconds, it's like, yeah, it was a dumb thing they did, and they caused some damage, and they should be punished to the full extent of whatever that damage is, like whatever their crime. The punishment should fit the crime, which is not, you know, obviously the same treatment that we got on the other side when Kamala Harris herself, the vice president of the United States, right before she was vice president, was setting up funds for bailing BLM rioters and looters out of jail. Like, and it's saying that this will not stop. It will not stop after the election. This will not stop. It will not stop. Like, it's just baffling.
pursuit of power above all else. Democrats, independents, mainstream Republicans must be stronger, more determined, and more committed to saving American democracy than MAGA Republicans are to destroying American democracy. We, the people, will not let anyone or anything tear us apart.
So unity, we won't let anything tear us apart. We need to come together, except for you guys. You evil people over there. You know who you are. You know, everybody who elected the last president of the United States.
Yeah.
You're the bad ones.
Today, there are dangers around us we cannot allow to prevail. We here, you've heard it, more and more talk about violence
Where?
as an acceptable political tool
Where? Who?
in this country.
Give me an example.
It's not. It can never be an acceptable tool.
Agreed.
So I want to say this plain and simple. There is no
Maybe.
place for political violence in America, period. None, ever.
Just
We
disconnect.
saw law enforcement
Wow.
brutally attacked on January the 6th.
No, we didn't.
We've seen election officials, poll workers, many of them volunteers of both parties, subject to intimidation,
Maybe.
death threats.
Possibly.
And can you believe it? FBI agents,
Yes.
just doing their job as directed, facing threats to their own lives.
Poor
to their
FBI
own-
agents.
Yes. Can you believe it? FBI agents who were only doing their job and following orders. Really? Just jackboot thugs following orders. Can you believe that people would have a problem with that? And he's saying this right after, of course, Mar-a-Lago was raided by the FBI, which is pretty suspect in itself. Can you believe it, though?
fellow citizens. On top of that, there are public figures today, yesterday, and the day before predicting and all but calling for mass violence and rioting in the streets.
Who?
This is inflammatory. It's dangerous. It's against the rule of law.
Yes, it is.
We can't be pro-insurrectionist and pro-American. They're incompatible. We can't allow violence to be normalized in this country. It's wrong.
How many times can he just say the same couple
Right.
of sentences in different words?
That was part of, like, I know this is redundant, but that was kind of the point. The reason why I was like, yeah, I'm just going to leave all of the, like, he just keeps repeating himself over and over again. Democracy, election, MAGA Republicans, violence. Like, repeat those four things over and over for 25 minutes, and you have yourself this speech. Oh, wait, unity. Put unity in there every 30 to 40 seconds just to make sure they know that none of this is real.
have to reject political violence with all the moral clarity and conviction this nation can muster. Now, democracy cannot survive when one side believes there are only two outcomes to an election. Either they win or they were cheated. And that's where the MAGA Republicans are today.
Yes, because they're the ones that just lost.
They're the only ones who have ever had that attitude.
Right. Yes, that's where the MAGA Republicans are today, because you guys are winning. Like, because you guys won the last election, you guys aren't saying that currently. But as soon as Donald Trump wins, you'll be right back to saying the exact same thing that you said when he won in 2016, which is that the election was rigged and blah, blah, blah. Sorry, YouTube. I mean, no election has ever been rigged. They've always been fair and beautiful, whatever. Except for Donald Trump's. That one was rigged because he never should have been president,
Russia.
obviously. Yes, Russia. Russiagate is totally
Russia
real.
did it.
Yep.
They don't understand what every patriotic American knows. You can't love your country only when you win.
You can. And do you remember when hashtag never Trump and hashtag not my president and hashtag whatever lock him up and all that shit? Like, I'm not saying that the Republicans are innocent of the same exact thing. I'm saying like everybody does the same thing. This whole back and forth party politics thing of when we're losing, it's not fair. And it goes all the way back. For as long as I've been paying attention to politics, I know that there was discrepancy all the way back to, George Bush and Al Gore and all that stuff. That's the farthest back I remember for the most part. But
it's a very American thing.
Right. Yes.
It's a very American thing.
Being mad that you lost. Yep.
Yeah.
And assuming that you didn't lose, because how could your team possibly lose in this cult sports?
I will not stand by and watch. I will not. The will of the American people be overturned by wild conspiracy theories and baseless evidence-free claims of fraud. I will not stand by and watch elections in this country stolen by people who simply refuse to accept that they lost.
Okay.
As your president, I will defend our democracy with every fiber of my being, and I'm asking every American to join me.
I had that one clipped out because I thought it was interesting that he says, as your president, I will do blank. Motherfucker, you're the president right now. Like, is this a campaign speech? Are you running for president right now? Is that what this is? Because I don't think that's how this is supposed to work. You're supposed to be addressing the country on this current present danger, not campaigning. When I am elected president... Go ahead.
He's not talking and saying anything about what other positive things are you going to be doing? What are some of the other problems that this country is facing that you have some potential solutions for?
Well, if you watch the entire speech, he does get into like, everything is great, everything is awesome, our economy is booming, inflation's not real, you're stupid. Now back to MAGA is bad. The soul of America.
Throughout our history, America has often made the greatest progress coming out of some of our darkest moments, like your hearings in that bullhorn. I believe we can and must do that again, and we are. MAGA Republicans look at America and see carnage and darkness and despair. They spread fear and lies. Lies told for profit and power.
Just
unbelievable.
Yeah, they spread fear and lies. Lies told for profit and power. Like that is literally what you're doing currently. Like you're making up shit in order to gain profit and power and sway an election coming.
And I'll tell you what, remember when Donald Trump got COVID? And I remember he tweeted something like, it was like, hey, I got COVID, but like, don't let this, don't let fear like run your life over this.
Yeah.
Like he was like the only person in the politics or media that ever said anything like that. It was just nothing but fear mongering day after day. It was unbearable.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I have my complaints about Trump's COVID policies, obviously. But yeah, he at least said, like, don't freak out about this thing. Like, he tried calming people down and wasn't like, and I know that Trump comes out and he says stupid things and says Democrats bad and this bad and that bad. But I don't know. I've never heard, for all the tyrannical stuff that I hear alleged about Donald Trump, I've never heard him be this, like, I don't know, this brazen with like Democrats are destroying the country and we need to, I mean, I'm sure there's something out there to that, but not like when he was president. I don't remember him ever coming out and giving a long grandstanding 25-minute speech about how evil and the Democrats or like certain branch of the Democrats are, and they need to be stopped and they need to be whatever. I don't know.
I think here's my experience. Like for most of Trump's presidency, I was not paying attention to politics.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't not see headlines when you're scrolling through social media. And so for a lot of his presidency, I assumed that he was a really bad guy, that he
Sure.
was pretty authoritarian and racist and sexist, and he was doing just a really awful job because I didn't care. I wasn't paying attention. And I just kind of like, that's what I saw.
Yeah.
And I think of how many Americans don't read news and read stories and go look at the other side, but just in their day-to-day life, they can't help but to see headline after headline after headline. And even people who maybe even don't even really care, these ideas are just being implanted into their heads, and they just kind of assume like, okay, this guy is bad news.
Yeah, absolutely. I know many people in that camp, and there's not a lot you can do to shake them out of it. Hopefully they watch this show someday and, hear some of the things that were actually said, like this.
American manufacturers come alive across the heartland, and the future will be made in America.
This, I think, is funny that he says...
No matter what the white supremacists and the extremists say.
He says, we need to make shit in America, which I'm pretty sure I'm old enough to remember that when Donald Trump would say anything about we need to have things made in America, we need to bring manufacturing home and this and that, it was always called xenophobic, racist, blah, 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 white supremacist. And in the same sentence, Joe Biden says we need to make things in America and we need to fight white supremacy. And I don't understand how a leftist who said that about Donald Trump doesn't see this and have the same issue, but it kind of goes along with Biden is currently building the wall, no matter what Jean-Pierre Claude Van Damme or whatever her name is says about it. He's pro-cop, he's pro-wall, he's bringing shit home to America, and it's up for debate whether or not you as a libertarian think that that's good or bad, but all that I care about is that this is just complete and utter bullshit compared to what he said when he was running, and people don't even A/B test, like go back and listen to what he said running, go look at what he says now. They're literally the opposite thing. I'm fine with somebody changing their mind, but I don't know how you go from defund the police to fund the police and no wall to building a wall and xenophobic to we need to bring everything home to America. I don't get it.
Low attention spans of a lot of people, I guess.
Yep.
I made a bet on you, the American people, and that bet is paying off, proving that from darkness, the darkness of Charlottesville, of COVID, of gun violence, of insurrection, we can see the light. Light is now visible.
Darkness, Charlottesville, COVID, whatever. Bad things. Bad. We're doing better. We're unity.
Light that will guide us forward. Even in this moment, with all the challenges we face, I give you my word as a Biden, I've never been more optimistic about America's future. Not because of me, but because of who you are. We're going to end cancer as we know it. Mark my words.
We're ending cancer again, by the way. He just throws that in. He threw it in when he was running. Yeah, he just slips it in here and there, and that doesn't feel like explaining it ever, but he did. That is one thing that he's stuck to, that he was running on when running for president, was he was going to end cancer. And now 2 years, almost halfway through his presidency, he's just going to slip it in there in between MAGA supporters, evil, and unity. Cancer is going to be over, I promise. Now let's move on to something else.
We're going to create millions of new jobs.
We got guys working on it, trust us.
Yeah. See how he just goes straight on to new jobs, just like throws cancer in there and like, trust me. Next thing.
Clean energy economy. We're going to think big. We're going to make the 21st century another American century because the world needs us to.
Xenophobia.
That's where we need to focus our energy. Not in the past, not on divisive culture wars, not on the politics of grievance, but on a future we can build together. The MAGA Republicans believe that for them to succeed, everyone else has to fail. They believe America is not like I believe about America. I believe America is big enough for all of us to succeed.
Except
that is the nation we're building, a nation where no one is left behind.
Except you guys.
I ran for president because I believe we're in a battle for the soul of this nation. I still believe that to be true. I believe the soul is the breath, the life, and the essence of who we are. The soul is what makes us us. The soul of America is defined by the sacred proposition that all are created equal in the image of God.
Except you guys.
That all are entitled to be treated with decency, dignity,
not you though.
Respect. That all deserve justice and a shot at lives of prosperity and consequence.
Except the Trumpies, right? Yep. Everybody needs a.
Didn't get the shot. You can't go out in public and have jobs.
Right. And except for everybody that I've just been chastising for the last 20 minutes. Like, I don't like. it's one thing to go from you're bad to unity, but to go from you're bad to everybody needs to everybody needs to be embraced, but you guys are bad. Like, I just can't. My brain doesn't work that way. You just said I'm bad.
If you want to start a civil war, pal, like, just say it.
Right.
Just say you reject half the country and their enemies. You don't want good things for them. Just come on. Let's take the gloves off and let's all be honest about what's going on here.
I would respect him more if he was honest about it, and I'm sure he would gain a couple supporters for it if he just came out and said, let's fuck it, let's do it, let's throw it down.
That endures, courage that digs deep when we need it, empathy that fuels democracy, the willingness to see each other not as enemies but as fellow Americans.
The willingness to see each other not as enemies but as fellow Americans while you're giving a speech about how everybody is an enemy that disagrees with you.
Look,
wow.
Our democracy isn't perfect. It always has been. Notwithstanding those folks you hear on the other side there. They're entitled to be outrageous. This is a democracy. But history and common sense.
That gets like the biggest applause of the night is when he's like, that guy has the right to be outrageous. And they don't realize that he's been saying that these people need to shut up and go away. And then he's saying that guy has the right to speak and be obnoxious, and everybody cheers. No problems there.
Good manners is nothing they've ever suffered from. But history and common sense tell us that opportunity, liberty, and justice for all are most likely to come to pass in a democracy. We've never fully realized the aspirations of our founding, but every generation has opened those doors a little bit wider to include more people who have been excluded before.
Every generation has opened those doors a little bit wider to include more people. Does that include...
But now we're trying to exclude about 75 million people.
Right. Not only that, but if every generation has done it, does that include your predecessor? Does that include the former president of the United States that you're currently chastising and saying is shutting down democracy? Like, that was a generation, was it not? That was an entire 4-year span, and it's still allegedly happening today. But did the door go back shut? Did it stay? I don't understand your metaphor or your analogy, sir.
I think we're trying to block out that period of American history. Too traumatic.
Apparently, yeah. Just tell everybody that January 6th rewrote the entire 4-year span, and it never happened. Obama straight into Biden.
Doubt, none, that this is who we will be, and that we'll come together as a nation that will secure our democracy, that for the next 200 years, we'll have what we had the past 200 years, the greatest nation on the face of the earth.
He said he has no doubt that that we will be better and that we will succeed. If he has no doubt, then what are you so scared of, bro? Like, what is all this? If you have zero doubt that you will succeed, what's the problem?
We just need to remember who we
are.
He's
definitely. I mean, the fact that he's even making the speech says a lot about what they know that they're up against.
Right. Yeah. You don't come out and give a 25-minute long speech saying somebody is evil that you have no fear of and have no concern about. You can't say it both.
Are the United States of America. The United States of America.
Unity.
May God protect our nation, and may God protect all those who stand watch over our democracy. God bless you all. Democracy. Thank you.
I like that final punctuation. And God bless our democracy. God bless you all. Democracy. Go. And then he does come back up on stage with Jill after this and tries to grab the mic and do a little freestyle, but they do not allow him to. Of course. There he is. No, nope.
No joke.
Nope. Get out of here. You said the thing. Now go back to bed. Move it along. Yep. So there's that. That's fun. And then immediately the next day, the news covered this, of course, and this is how they painted it.
Facing some fallout for his fiery speech from Thursday night, where he laid into Mr. Trump and some of his supporters. What's the president saying now?
That's right. The president told reporters Friday he wanted to be clear that he doesn't consider any supporter of the former president's a, quote, threat to the country, while still defending his own.
He doesn't consider any Trump supporter a threat to the country. Just disregard that entire thing that we just did. Wow.
I think he just doesn't remember what he said the night before.
That's very probable.
Overall message from the speech.
I do think anyone who calls for the use of violence fails to condemn violence when it's used, refuses to acknowledge that an election has been won, insists upon changing the way in which the rules you count votes.
So, I did not slow this down.
Democracy. Democracy.
He does not wake up with the same energy that he went to bed with, apparently. But, yeah, they said he said this morning that he did not condemn Trump supporters. Here's a clip, and it's just him saying, if you don't believe in free and fair elections, then you're against democracy. Like, did you have any clips of him saying the thing that you said he just said? Because that's the part that doesn't really make sense to me, since it completely disagrees with everything that we just listened to him say.
Oh my gosh.
Can you take any more of this, Matt? Because we do have two or three clips from one more speech from the next day.
Let's do it.
Punishment. Let's get it on. So this is him the next day on Labor Day, or a day or two later, I don't know. But this is his Labor Day speech, focusing on unions mostly. So this one is shorter. I clipped out all the union whatever stuff. It's literally just him saying, unions are good. I support unions. Vote for me because I support unions. And that is it for about 40 minutes. But here are the highlights.
Changing. And we're going to have to ask whether we want to be a country that moves forward or backwards. We're going to build a future, or we're going to obsess about the past. I've said,
like January 6th or Donald Trump or everything that you have been talking about for 2 years straight. Obsessing it like we need to be the country that moves forward, and these MAGA Republicans don't want to move forward. They're just trying to overthrow this election. It's like, I don't know.
many times, we're the only country in the world that's come out of every crisis we ever faced stronger than we went in it. No other nation has done that.
What about COVID?
First off, what does that even mean? We're the only country that has come out of every struggle stronger than we went into it. No other country has ever done that. What? We've every single problem that we've ever had, we've become stronger for it, and we're the only people to do it. You're right. Like, what about COVID? Do you feel like we're stronger because of COVID? Do you think like we feel like we're in a safer place as a unified country because of COVID, Matt?
I would have to disagree with that strongly.
Yeah.
It's a different world. I mean, I feel like it's a different country than what we were in 3 years ago.
Or how about Afghanistan? Do you feel like we came out of Afghanistan stronger than we went into it?
But what about the countries where the crisis happened? Did they come out stronger in the end?
Right.
How's Afghanistan and Iraq doing right about now?
Well, that's what he's saying. These other countries, they go into hardships and they come out worse. We always come out better because we're America.
And we do it because we've been a nation of unity, of hope, of optimism.
Yep.
Not
Clearly.
a nation of division and violence and hatred being preached by some others. I want to be very clear up front. Not every Republican is a MAGA Republican. Not every
So
Republican
he's just straight back into it. This is like the next day after he said, I did not condemn these people. Then he's like, unity, unions, unified. Also, these MAGA Republicans, damn it. Like, just can't help yourself. It's in the notes. He's got to read it.
That extreme ideology. I know because I've been able to work with mainstream Republicans my whole career. But the extreme MAGA Republicans in Congress have chosen to go backwards, full of anger, violence, hate, and division. But together, we can and we must choose a different path. Forward.
I also like that he keeps bringing up...
I really mean it.
He really means it. I like that he keeps bringing up how all these mainstream Republicans agree with him and they work with him on things. And it's not all MAGA Republicans. They're not all bad. But then later on in the speech and multiple times in this one and in the last one, he very specifically points out this bill and that bill, like what's it called? The inflation bill, inflation reduction bill, and a lot of other made-up bullshit that they did. He's like, we did this and we did that, and every single one of these things, keep in mind, the Republicans didn't vote for a single one of them. It's like, I thought they agreed with you on stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, are you just making this up as you go? I mean, I know that he's not, because he's not.
I think maybe
the
he's
best on
talking
the fly.
about his history as a politician, maybe.
I guess. I don't even know what he's talking about
We
anymore.
have to. A future of unity, of hope, of optimism.
Buzzwords. C.D. McRae says he sounds like Mitch Hedberg. Yes, that's pretty accurate. Just throw shit in there, and it's borderline. It's hard to tell. Like, if you told me that this was a SNL sketch or something, let's go back to the years before Trump, Obama years or something, and you said that Obama came out and gave I don't know, who was Obama running against? I don't remember. McCain, yeah.
McCain and
Bad example,
Romney.
because he probably would have been right.
Build the future in America, with American workers, in American factories, using
Xenophobia.
American-made products.
Xenophobia. I think
Look,
there's
we
only
have a
one or
lot
two
of
more. Yep.
responsibilities, but only one sacred responsibility, not a joke. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart, and I've said it from the first day I entered politics. We have an obligation to equip those we send into harm's way and care for them and their families when they come home.
So
Both their families.
I don't know who both are or who these two families are. It's not clear, even in the full context of the speech, but he said both their families. And I don't know, like, if we look at anything that Biden's done militarily, do you feel like he's, I don't know, had safe bringing people home and making sure the veterans are taken care of? I don't know, maybe people dying in Afghanistan as we speak.
I don't think so. And I think probably the military veterans a lot of them are struggling. There's a lot of suicide and PTSD that seems to continue.
Yep.
What's he doing about that?
He's giving speeches.
In American factories.
I went back too
Look,
far.
we have a lot of responsibilities, but only one sacred responsibility, not a joke. And I've entered
same
politics. We send into harm's way home. Both their families. We lived in a 3-bedroom split-level home in a development that was the area was growing.
Now listen to this
with
transition.
4 kids and a grandpa. I sometimes wonder. Anyway, I wonder. It was great for us, but those walls are thin. But all kidding aside, we did fine. No complaints. We did fine.
So he's talking about middle class.
But here's the point.
And here's the point.
The biggest contrast
Wait.
from what MAGA Republicans,
Oh, there it
the
is.
extreme right, the Trumpies,
Trumpies.
they want to go to Congress. These MAGA Republicans in Congress are coming for your Social Security as well.
Nazi fags.
You and I, we offer a starkly different vision for this country. A vision of a fairer, more decent America. One where everybody has a fair share, where every American is treated with, my dad would say, with dignity.
Everybody but you.
The economy that works for work, not wealth. Let me close with this. We're a serious moment in our nation history.
So he talked
it's
for
not
45
like
minutes about unions primarily, and then he's going to close with, guess
From
what?
the bottom of my heart. As I
The
said
most
last
important
week,
thing.
we remain
Trumpy
in the
forces.
battle for the soul of America. By the way. All right, God love you. Let him go.
This is where somebody was
Let
shouting
him
out,
go.
and they apparently they grabbed this guy. I don't think it was security. It seems like it was probably just people around grabbing him. And here's how he responds.
No, don't.
12 no's.
Let him go.
Let him go.
Look, everybody's entitled to be an idiot. No.
Insult him.
Everybody's entitled. Okay?
And then make sure they know not to be violent.
Extreme
as they're being
MAGA
violent.
Republicans don't just threaten our personal rights and our economic security. They embrace political violence.
Oh, yeah. They're the ones
Except for the guy
embracing
grabbing
political
this
violence.
guy and hauling him off.
As your people are dragging him out. He's the one who needs to stop being violent.
Look. No, look, the reason, I'm not talking all Republicans. I'm talking about these extreme MAGA Republicans. Think about it. Think about it. The definition of democracy is you accept the will of the people when the votes are honestly counted. These guys
right.
don't do it.
I think we may have had enough of this.
Name me a democracy in the world where a leader argues to engage in violence. To this
Kamala
day,
Harris.
MAGA Republicans in Congress
Yeah.
defend the mob that stormed
Defending
the
the
Capitol.
mob who
and
just
people
stormed the
died
Capitol.
later.
Oh, we got to listen to this.
Senator Johnson
Gets even
said
better.
it was, by and large, a peaceful protest.
Oh.
Have you seen the videos, what happened that day?
Yes.
Listen to the stories of the members of both parties of Congress and the jeopardy they were put in.
Both members of Congress.
Cops attacked and assaulted, speared with flagpoles,
Cops
sprayed
were
with mace.
attacked, assaulted, speared with flagpoles, sprayed with mace. Have you watched the videos, Matt? Because I have, and I didn't see any of that.
What about that girl that your thugs killed?
We don't talk about that. She's a terrorist.
Stomped down, dragged, brutalized. Police lost their lives as a result of that day.
Police lost their lives. Also not true. A guy died of a heart attack like 2 or 3 days later, and another one died of something. But it wasn't even, like, no cops died on that day. The only person that died on that day was Ashley Babbitt, who was shot by a cop. She was unarmed. Yeah, she was climbing through a window. And if you think that that's a good enough reason to shoot somebody, then you might be a fascist.
And the MAGA Republicans and your senior senators said it was a peaceful protest.
Boo!
Folks, you can't be you can't be
You got this.
insurrectionist. I'm being deadly earnest now.
Go ahead.
There's no democracy where you can be pro-insurrection and pro-democracy.
Anyway,
Parliament.
this one's great
If
too.
you go home,
I don't want to play this,
afternoon,
but we have
turn
to.
on the television and saw several thousand people storming the British Parliament, knocking down the doors, threatening their lives, trying to overthrow the election of the new prime minister, and people dying. What would you think? No, I'm being deadly earnest now. Honest to God, what would you think?
What would you think, honest to
this
God?
is not a democracy.
Would you think that
Well, let me tell you
this
something.
parliament is not a democracy?
I mean, was that whole thing January 6th? I don't think that there was even any. The goal wasn't to, like, what would it mean? What would it take to overturn the election?
Oh, we were so close. We were like 1 grandma away from overturning our precious democracy, I'm pretty sure. If they had just gotten past one
Like,
more
they
velvet
would've got
rope.
in there and like intimidate the right people, then they like lay out the steps.
We
for,
would have
like,
lost it all.
the January 6th, and then like Trump just being installed as president, and like the rest is history.
Step 1, white supremacy. Step 2, break a window. Step 3, ... Step 4, overthrown democracy. Good job. We did it.
Okay.
All right, that's way longer than I intended to go with that shit, but we do have to wrap it up by showing Karine Jean-Pierre's just some statements that she has been called out for lately, and this is too good not to share, and we will wrap up soon, I promise. This is going to be a little bit scattered, but it's important.
Oh, I knew this was
Trump,
coming.
Republicans, you tweeted. In
Oh, I knew
2016,
this was
Trump
coming.
stole an
Oh.
election. You
I was
tweeted-
waiting, Peter, when you were going to ask me that question.
Well, great. Here we go. You tweeted Trump stole an election. You tweeted Brian Kemp stole an election. If denying election results is extreme now,
Yeah.
why wasn't
So
it then?
let's be really clear. That comparison that you made is just ridiculous. I have been. Well,
ridiculous?
you're asking me a question. Let me answer it.
And you said it was
Wait,
ridiculous.
I was talking specifically at that time of what was happening with voting rights and what was in danger of voting rights. That's what I was speaking to.
So, Karine Jean-Pierre, the person who is currently the mouthpiece for Joe Biden, she tweeted in 2016 that Donald Trump stole the election.
Mm-hmm.
So, and now her defense for that is that it's completely different, and comparing those things are ridiculous because she was speaking about, at that time, problems and concerns with, the security of the election. So it's different, I think.
Yeah, there was nothing different about the election in 2020 at all that would have raised questions.
Yeah. Nope. So if you question the results of an election, you are overthrowing democracy unless it is the right people. And I do want to play this before we go because I do think it's important to reiterate that I am not a Trump supporter. And when I see Donald Trump respond to what Biden said, I also hate that. I hate that I have to defend, 50% of the country because they voted a certain way. I'm not defending them for voting a certain way. I'm defending them from, I don't know, the president calling for their beheading or whatever this leads to. I know that's a little bit hyperbolic so far, but give it a month. But then Trump came out and said this.
As you know, this week, Joe Biden came to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to give the most vicious, hateful, and divisive speech ever delivered by an American president, vilifying
probably right.
75 million citizens plus another probably 75 to 150, if we want to be accurate about it, as threats to democracy and as enemies of the state. You're all enemies of the state. He's an enemy of the state. You want to know the truth? The enemy of the state is him and the group that control him, which is circling around him. Do this, do that, Joe. You're going to do this.
I hate it. I hate listening to this man speak. Not as much as I hate listening to Biden speak, but I hate that this is the alternative that we are given. They're just it's just bad things. Real bad guy. Real bad. Like, talk to me like I'm at least 12, sir. Like, it's not as degrading as calling for, I guess, the incarceration of MAGA supporters or whatever Biden's solution is to this. But how have we come to this point where the options are, if you don't like pedo Hitler, you have to defend this guy. I hate that part about this timeline. Matt, any thoughts?
You know what? I gotta come out and say I kind of like the guy. I really came to like him in 2020, because maybe it's because I heard so much evil stuff about him, and then when I started actually paying attention and watching his press conferences, first of all I realized, like, oh, this guy, he's not Hitler.
Right.
He's not evil, so that was one thing. But I kind of like the way that he would conduct himself at press conferences, and he was just kind of like, he didn't take bullshit. He would call out people and say, "Oh, you're a terrible reporter. You're not doing your job."
Yeah. I
kind of like him. I gotta admit, I gotta come clean. I voted for him in 2020. I gotta come clean about that.
Nazi fags.
Well, I wish you had told me that before coming on this show. We just wasted 2 hours talking to a Trumpy, I don't know, a maggot, I think is what they. So, Matt, do you got any last words before I don't invite you to the after party?